911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call Med Control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org.
What we have to stress, and especially in the mental health component, is that, first of all, it's okay to ask for help. Two, it's okay to talk about it. You're going to dwell on it no matter what. I get it. But if you can talk to somebody and help you, especially there's a lot of people that have probably been in the same boat that you've been in on that call.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they handled it. Talk to somebody. There's no reason to end your life, right? There's just no reason to end your life where there's so many resources and people out there willing to help.
If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.
911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call Med Control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org.
Stop counting. All right. So I've been looking forward to this one. Today's guest is Steve Cohen. And before we get into titles, years, podcasts, leadership roles, and all the other bullshit people usually throw out there to make them sound big and important, Steve's been around this field long enough to see EMS from the dawn of every damn angle. He's been a street medic. He's been on the truck. He's been in operations, leadership. Me and him were actually just discussing education. He's trained, and he's doing a podcast, Medic to Medic, which is a very amazing podcast as well. He's been in the back of the ambulance all the way to going to make the back of the ambulance actually work for us at 3:00 in the morning. Right there is why I want this conversation to happen today, because this show talks about the calls, the trauma, the burnout, and the weird shit we carry home. But today I want to talk with somebody who's watched the system change, watched the people's change, and hasn't forgot what it's started as. So anyway, Steve, before we get into all the official stuff, who are you really, and what made this conversation say yes to happen?
Well, Chris, thanks for all those kind words. I don't even know how to respond to that. Yes, I have been in EMS a long time, and we'll get into how I got into it, but I've seen a lot of changes, and the ability of what I see today versus when I first started. Yes, the technology, the medicine's gotten much better. What I do see is that they're still using EMS currently as a stepping stone to go to nursing school, PA schools, and medical school. Nothing wrong with that. More power to you. I don't know. For me, EMS has been a great career. Still is a great career for me. Actually, this is my new job at Denver Health. It's the first time I'm not really associated with an EMS service in my 40 plus years in the field. Kind of felt weird at EMS week though Denver Health has Denver Health paramedics. So I was able to see a few and say happy EMS week, made me feel good. But yeah, it's been weird for me to kind of not be associated with an EMS service since I've doing it, since, well, like I say, 40 plus years.
Yeah, that'd feel a little bit odd. That might be a little strange.
But I will say, I'm now a licensed paramedic in the state of Colorado.
Wait.
Yeah, people ask me, why are you doing that? You don't need it for your job. Yeah, becoming an EMT, becoming a paramedic was so important to me. I want to continue to do that. I'm hoping to hopefully get on an ambulance or do some kind of patient care, either in a hospital or whatever it may be, as a medic somewhere down the line once I get established here in Denver. But yeah, it's still important. Yeah, I still have my national registry for over 30 plus years as well. I still do my con ed. It's still important to me. I love being a paramedic. I love taking care of people. And that's why I continue to hold the certification. Eventually, I'll probably have to let it go, but right now I don't have to.
Hey, we spent years trying to get our certs. I mean, and we have to go have so many CEUs every year. It's something you should be proud of. Um,
Absolutely.
and to me, I know a lot of the guys bitch, complain about the pay, and I get it. But at the same time, until we all take pride in it and start doing what we need to do to be able to overcome the obstacles that we have, it's not going to get any better, in my opinion.
Yes, the pay is always going to be an option, but it doesn't matter unless you're a pro athlete that's making, $500,000 a game they play, like in football, or, $45 million in a year. Yeah, probably not a big deal. Money's probably, it's important, but uh, satisfaction in your life to me is, yeah, I love the money, but being satisfied and being healthy really goes a long way. Hey, I've got 2 kids who I love and seen them grow into unbelievable adults. My wife and I raised 2 kids, bought a couple houses, got a couple cars. I finished school while I was in the field as well. So, I mean, you can make it work. Yeah, I've had to work a bunch of part-time jobs too. Yeah, I get it, but I would not change anything. I had a chance to go to nursing school early on in my career. Even before I went to paramedic school, I got accepted into nursing school. And a week later, I got a job offer from the city of Pittsburgh. And I knew that I didn't want to spend my time in the hospital. Now, I do wish I had the RN behind my name because of the education and the patient assessments that nurses do, that part, but I didn't want to be tied to the hospital. And that's why I knew deep in my heart I wanted to work for the city of Pittsburgh. That's where I grew up, and the opportunity came, and I took it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So just so everyone's on the same page as I am bitching about the pay at the same time, but on one hand, we can't make it better until we make ourselves better. That's what I was trying to throw out there. So get back at this. So you wrote something that stuck with me on your intake form. You said you went from the back of the ambulance to trying to make the back of the ambulance run better. That sounds as simple as all get out. But anyone who's worked this job knows exactly how much is packed into that loaded sentence. Um, because making the ambulance better in the back isn't just about the protocols. It's about, it's not about schedules. It's not about equipment, training, or whatever flavor of the month leadership wants to fucking email about pizza parties or whatever. It's about the people, the medics, the EMTs, the dispatchers, and supervisors trying to get truck staffed with duct tape and prayers. So I want to start here. After the 43 years in the field that you got, when you think about the person sitting in the truck at 3 a.m., what do you think we still don't understand about them?
What a great what a great question, Chris. That's you got to give me a couple seconds to think about that one. Uh, I, th- you mentioned it in your question. It's about leadership,
Yes, sir.
and one thing I learned uh, from the many mentors and great leaders and poor leaders I had, what kind of molded me into being the leader that I think I became. And I think what it comes down to is you as a leader, you have to be in the back of the ambulance at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the first thing. You've got to be willing to do that. So when I became, well, I think I need to really start at the beginning to just give you maybe a quick synopsis of how I got into EMS. I was fledgling. I was not a really good college student, uh, and that was uh, very interesting because at the end of my freshman year of college, my QPA was 1.8, and I got suspended unless I go to summer school. All right, and the reason why is because in high school I didn't have the freedom of not going to class. Got to college. If I went to class, okay. If I didn't, no big deal. I went to a few classes, had a good time. I dated a cheerleader for the first time in my life. Didn't
Yay.
last long. At least I got to say I dated a cheerleader twice, and that was it. But again, it's another story, another podcast. But uh, I was in summer school. My dad had a heart attack, and he was playing tennis, had a twinge in his right shoulder, came home, was white as a ghost. My mom says she's calling 911. My dad, being a stubborn SOB, may he rest in peace, said, no, I'm going to go upstairs and take a shower. Well, of course, my mom never listened to him on certain things, picked up the phone, called 911. My dad goes to the hospital, ends up with an MI. He was in no pain at the point at all. He had 10 seconds of twinge. That was it. And it was on his right shoulder. But he had some Q wave. If you looked at EKG, his Q waves were pretty nasty. And so back then, he spent 5 days in the ICU, and then 4 days in the step down unit. Step down unit, his technician was an EMT who volunteered at a place called Swissville Area Emergency Medical Services, which is right outside of Pittsburgh, where I was born in this city. And my dad always talked to everybody. My dad was very friendly, and you would never think that Ed Brinkley and my dad would connect, because my dad was military. If I had a beard and my hair was a little bit long, it's to say I don't have much hair anymore, but I grew a beard, and he talked to me, but it was just very cold. Didn't even notice when I shaved it off. But Ed, let me describe. Ed was about 6'3", a little bit long hair. Back then, when men really weren't wearing a lot of earrings, he had earrings, bulldog, wrist guards on, tattoos and everything. But Ed was a great guy. Ed is still a great guy. My dad got to talk to him, and they started talking about what Ed does. And Ed said he volunteers at Swissville. He's an EMT. And then my dad remembers that I love to share emergency. Introduces me to Ed.
That was a good show.
And Ed took me to, told me all about it. I went for an interview. And at the interview to be a volunteer, they got a call. And said, come on.
Sweet.
And I'm in the back of the ambulance. It was excuse me. It was a Dodge van, and we're going lights and siren. And we get on the scene. It's a 14-year-old girl who fell off her bike, had a knee injury. And I saw these 4 providers, 2 paramedics and 2 EMTs, just take such great care of this 14-year-old with splints, ice packs, talking to the family, to the mom who was hysterical. Then we walk we walk into the hospital on a stretcher, and the respect that the hospital gave this crew, and able to go with his authorized personnel also kind of was fun for me as well. And one thing led to another, and I began volunteering at Swissville. My parents let me drop out of college. I became an EMT, became a paramedic, went back to school, got my degree, because I promised my parents I would do that. But if it wasn't for Ed Brinkley, my dad's heart attack, and Swissville Area Emergency Medical Services, who taught me a lot about EMS and how to take care of patients, as well as leadership. And then I went to work for the city of Pittsburgh, and my crew chiefs at the city of Pittsburgh, because I was a young pup, give me that trauma, give me that motor vehicle accident with car on its roof, and let me get in there and do what I need to do. And I had one of my crew chiefs just smack me in the back of my head, like if you ever watch NCIS, and wearing Gibbs, Denozo, and everybody else in the back of the head. Well, he hit me in the back of the head after a patient we took to, and he said, "Listen, we're here to take care of everybody. Doesn't matter what their emergency is, doesn't matter what time it is." He showed so much leadership and character. It just turned me all around. And that's kind of the message. Well, that is the message I passed on to all my, in my leadership positions. And even when I'm on the truck, I always talk about we're here to take care of people. It doesn't matter. People made fun of me when I talked to people that were unconscious.
There's nothing
And
wrong with it. I do it all the time.
I mean, why are you doing that? They can't hear you. Well, they can. That's another story. But but the thing about it is leadership starts at back of the ambulance at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you're willing to do that, your crews see that and they will listen to you. They might not agree with everything that you want to try to change. Because I went to Cary Area EMS, being the chief for the first time, and they had a chief who was a really good chief, but was more of, I have to do everything myself. I'm not like that. I want to give people a chance to grow. And because I was getting phone calls, can I approve this overtime? Can I do this? Can I do that? I said, well, you're in this officer supervisor role. Let's teach you, but yeah, you can make those decisions. And if you make the wrong decisions, we're going to talk about it. And as you know, good leaders come in and they might want to bring in their own people. And I had a few people that wanted to come work with me and in a leadership role. And my 19 years at Cary, I never changed my officer corps. I created a career ladder. So those are all things that were important. But I was the most active chief in the Wake County EMS system. I would go on calls. I'd be at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. We're working 24 hours because of bad storms, whatever it may be, or 36 hours. I was pulling my shifts. So I was able to show the staff and my volunteers and my paid personnel. And the other thing is my board of directors said, we need to grow our organization. So we went from 9 full-time employees to 45 full-time employees before I left. Yeah. And
Man, that's a
listen, I'm not, listen, I might say like I'm perfect. I am not. I made tons of mistakes. No doubt about it.
no. That's something we learn from is our mistakes.
We do. And it's one of the things I said to my staff and to my officers that it's okay. We can disagree. And you can also tell me I'm wrong without being worried about you losing your job. And boy, did my officers took that advice, and they would tell me numerous times I was wrong. They also gave me some really good advice because when I came in, I was really firing off things left and right, boom, boom, boom. And I didn't get a chance to really learn the organization in the first 30 days, though it takes a little longer than that. But they pulled me aside and said, hey, Steve, you need to slow down. You need to learn the organization. Now, I could be as a leader, like I said, I'm not listening to them. No way. I'm the boss. What I say goes. But I took their advice and they were right. And I listened to that. And that, first of all, if you ever work for a nonprofit ambulance service, you deal with a board of directors, you deal with the kinds of staff, and they all have their own ways of doing things. I look at it, besides having a very successful family-oriented organization, I survived 19 years with different board of directors and never lost my job.
Wow.
So those are all good things because I learned to listen, but I made, like I said earlier, I made a handful of mistakes as well. But that's how you learn from them. I've had some really good bosses that taught me some really good things. And I'm grateful to them. And I love being a leader. I love teaching. And those are things that are still really important to me. What really it comes down to, it's just, as you know, in American Heart, when you're teaching American Heart, they like using videos and which are really good. But when it really comes down to teaching CPR to anybody, it comes down to, can you recognize it? Can you call 911 and get me a defibrillator and push hard and fast? Yes, all the other information is extremely important, but when it comes down to it, can you do all those and do it well enough until help arrives? And so those are the things that when you teach, and you can teach all these great things, but it comes down to simple things. Same thing. Uh, One thing that we've always taught our staff was that at the end of the shift, you need to go home safe.
Yep, 100%.
Simple as that. You have to go home safe. Your safety, yeah, we want to take care of people, and we did a really good job at that at Care EMS, no doubt about it. But same thing at the city of Pittsburgh. We did really good care. And then when I volunteered at Ben Salem and outside of Philadelphia, all the people cared about taking care of people. And I'm not sure where they learned that. I know where I learned that. I try to emulate that. But it really comes down to one thing about my first day of EMT class. Jack McCambridge, who was a city of Pittsburgh police officer or EMT instructor, he said something to our class, which I continue to do today. He says, always pass on your knowledge. And I continue to do that today. Sorry for that long monologue.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, honestly, that kind of brought me to. I was writing a question down as you were speaking. So to me, it amazes me, how we remember all the calls we run. Also the strengths we get from them, and also how we have the dark, intrusive thoughts we get, or the night terrors, if you want to call it that, from some of our calls. Why do you think that double-edged sword helps us in the end as well with patient care and leadership?
Well, as you know, in the early days, and even probably today, we never talked about, well, not today so much, because the mental health component is front and center. Back then, it didn't matter, right? You never talked about it. You had a bad call, you got your truck back in service, and you were ready for the next call. Today, there is such a focus on mental health, and we're doing an okay job. We could do much better because both in police, fire, and EMS, people are still committing suicide and still afraid to talk. So what we have to do when we talk about those dark calls or even those bad calls is you've got to talk about it. And don't be afraid to talk about it. And that's something that in my previous job, I did a lot of Narcan training because, of course, the opioid crisis and everything else. But one of the things when I went to companies and small groups and big groups that talk about Narcan and how to use it, at the end, there's a picture of me and my 5-year-old golden Bailey Bell that said, if you can't, you gave somebody Narcan and then EMS comes, they take the patient away, and then you're left there. Nobody talks to you. And you start thinking about, did I call 911 fast? Did I give Narcan fast enough? Did I push on this person's chest hard and fast before EMS arrived? And you start thinking about it. And at 3:00 in the morning, you pop up in the middle of the night and you're thinking about it and you start sweating and you start having nauseated feelings. Normal feelings. But what I tell them is that you need to talk to somebody. Don't drink alcohol. Talk to somebody, do some exercise. But if you can't talk to somebody, call me. Bailey and I will come talk to you. And that's where it has to be known. And the thing about it is, when you talk about leadership and things, I know you want to talk about calls and I come to it, but I'm on this leadership kick right now. So thanks for bringing that question up, Chris. Is when you read stories that happen in Florida about the hazing of that 19-year-old firefighter and waterboarding and all this other things that went on, and the leadership in that firehouse let it happen, or the harassment that continues to, you read about, there's a lawsuit in Washington State of a captain who was a female captain who was ignored by the leadership. and is suing that fire department because their leadership didn't do anything. Now, it's only one side. I don't know what the other side is to it, but that's a side that you read about and you continue to hear that. Well, if leadership doesn't recognize that you've got to treat people fairly and correctly and take care of them, then you're going to fail as a leader. And for the fire department in Florida and the leaders that continue to ignore things that are happening in their firehouse because they don't think it's going to go away, that's just poor leadership.
100%. I think that if leadership got, on board with the health, I would call it a crisis, with the health crisis we have in our field, it might it might change a few things. Like you said, in Florida, that's a leadership issue. The females still in the fire department, that's 100% leadership issues. So on that note, why is it we got the failing leaderships that we have and they stay in power so long?
Yeah, because that's the way we've always done it.
And I think that's where we
How many
fail.
times I don't know how many times you've heard it, but this is the way we always have done it. And anytime you try to make change, and that's what you hear. This is how we did it. This is how we did that. And I get it. I understand that. Hey, listen, there are thousands of great public safety leaders out there. There's no doubt about it. And they do a really good job. That's why their systems and their people stay there and they thrive. I'm sure you've heard this maybe in your career as well. When you take a position, even if, from a field position, well, my other partner, this is how we did it, right? I always drove to the call, or we worked 10 hours. In the first 5 hours, I'm going to be driving, you're going to be in the back, or you're a rookie and you're going to be in the back for 24 hours, and I'm going to be driving and you're going to have to write the report and you're going to take care of the patient and all that. But that's how we've always done it. And that's how my old partner did it or whatever it may be. Well, sometimes things need to be changed, but being a rookie or a probie, it's tough to say anything. I get that. So you might just have to sometimes suck it up, I guess. I don't know. But do we have to? And for the first, I would say 7 or 8 months, and when at Carey, all I heard was, this is how we used to do it, or this is how the predecessor did it, right? And eventually I had to say, do I look like the predecessor? And am I acting like the predecessor? And they said, no. I said, well, guess what? I'm
I'm
not.
not.
And yeah, we're making some changes. And yes, I know early in my tenure, I was going a little way too quick. I get it. I know, way too fast. Got it. And that's why we slowed down. But 7 months into it, I'm not that person. I'm not predecessor. My predecessor did a great job taking that organization from one step to another to 2 more steps. And then it's my job to take it from those 3 steps to 25 more steps. How long we get there, it's a different story, but we take those priorities. But we hear that all the time. And any job you go to, this is how we did it. And I get it. But sometimes you just have to, introducing change is tough for everybody. Doesn't matter what profession you're in, but you have to learn. Now, I'm at the age now where I'm okay to say something. Actually, I've been at that age for a long time, but meaning that I'm okay to say something. But it's how you say it, Chris.
It is, and that was my next point. Is you have to have the conversations. You have to have, we're gonna have disagreements in any field, like you said. There's gonna be disagreements. There's gonna be the banner back and forth of, oh well, this is how we do it all the time. Okay, but why not listen to the other person's side of the things? And that might shed some perspective, or it could just piss you off, one or the other. But at least they got it off their chest.
Right, and that's one thing that I've learned in all through my career is that it's okay to talk about it. And we all have bosses, and most of my bosses said, yeah, we can talk about it. And you can give your point of view. I'm going to give my point of view, but ultimately, the boss has the final say. As long as it's an ethical change and it's not going to hurt somebody, okay, you can agree to make that change, and you have to go out and smile and do it. But at least excuse me, like you said, you had that say. And my new boss at Denver Health said, "Yeah, it's okay to disagree with me. We can talk about it. And if you see that she said to me, if I said, if what did she say? She said, if something that you disagree with, tell me." Fair enough. But but do it respectfully, right? Don't go and say you're freaking wrong and you don't know what the heck you're talking about. No, you shouldn't do that to any supervisor or leader. Be respectful. And sometimes both on both ends, from the field to the leadership, there's some of that disrespect that goes back and forth. And that is just not fair. And but again, you have to learn those things. And uh, I'm just it's tough to learn. It's always tough to learn. It's tough to make those changes. And, in my new position, I'm going to make some changes. Uh, uh, but I'm not ready. I'm 4 weeks in. I'm not making those changes. I'm going to try to introduce those changes. Just one of the things that I'm doing now is that uh, I'm incorporating a different mannequin into the CPR training, right? And I understand why they weren't using this one particular mannequin. I get it. I understand. Good rationale, and they don't have to do it because it's appropriate. But but in my classes, we're using that third mannequin, and it's the way it is. And eventually, as people see that, okay, well, he's using it. It's not causing any discomfort. It's not taking up more time. Well, we're gonna start using it, but it's just how you introduce change and why you want to do it. And my boss asked me why I want to do it. I said, well, the reason why is because when we were teaching CPR, having a child mannequin versus an adult mannequin, it puts that provider or the student in. If you're using the adult mannequin for the child standards, the student just thinks it's an adult. And when you put the child in, and I'm just using this as an example, uh, and, but then they start thinking, okay, this is a child, and yeah, so it's just making changes, and some things we'll keep the same, some things we will probably change. But I'm 4 weeks into my new position. I'm still learning, and I'm going to continue to learn. And I love my job. I love working at Denver Health. Uh, I, the people that I've run into, even some of the EMTs and paramedics that I've run into, because they're up a floor above us, seem to be extremely happy. They like working at Denver Health. I like working at Denver Health. Uh, Good people. I've been welcomed. They've been really making me feel comfortable. They're willing to, because I've asked tons of questions and nobody's rolled their eyes at me yet, which I really appreciate. But some of the questions, they probably have heard numerous times, but I'm new.
Well, and
And
that's
I
that's
want to
one thing
learn.
too. That's one thing that you brought up a minute ago is the respect thing. I've always been on the trucks, and I had a few medics that actually broke it down to me very simply. They can't be a good medic unless their EMT or their partner is a good EMT or medic or advanced or whatever. And that was a mutual respect thing that showed me in the end that they may know more than I do, but we all have a perspective that we can input and possibly help each other out with. And to
Mhm.
me, that was a big mental relief as well. And that showed proper leadership from those guys that have been doing it 20 plus years. And I'm sitting here, you know, 1, 2 months off the street, and these guys are teaching me everything they know. And that kind of goes back to what you just said about, your Denver Health thing is you're doing great jobs, but you're also taking their input and fixing things that you can and not trying to break what's already fixed.
Listen, Denver Health's been around since 1860, and
Wow.
yeah, it was Denver General, and then became Denver Health. And there's some really people that have been around for. They really you talk about learning. They have. I think we have over 8,600 employees throughout main campus and the satellite campuses and facilities. And during my orientation, they had at least 10% what they call boomerangs, where they leave and they come back to work. And That happens in what I hear on a pretty regular basis, that people will go somewhere else and come back. And their philosophy about taking care of employees is, I mean, so far in my 4 weeks, they're living up to it. Absolutely. They really want to take care of employees. They want people to stay. I don't know. It's a really good place. And like I say, I work I'm on a team, and uh, I have my own little part of the team, and everybody else has their parts as well. But everybody's so friendly, so nice, very accommodating. I'm very happy I made the move.
That's awesome, and that makes a big difference too. I mean, with patient care, with pretty much everything we've talked about, if it's a more accommodating, more acclimated area to work in, it makes your job so much better and so much easier, and you actually enjoy it. You actually want to give it your all. You don't want to sit there and, oh, here's a pizza party. No, fuck you. You know,
Yeah,
it's not that kind of thing. It sounds like that's awesome for you because a lot of us, need to find that job in this field that we love and enjoy.
yeah. Uh, Again, I've been lucky in my career. I've had people that I have worked with who've taught me, taken me under their wings, and pointed me in the right direction, from leadership to being a provider to being an educator. Uh, so I've been very lucky, and I will always say that Swissvale was a great place to volunteer as well. It taught me a lot about leadership, how to take care of patients, because the paramedics and EMTs, because when I started, all I had was actually, I didn't have any training at all. I got my advanced first aid and CPR, and I was able to drive on the ambulance. And but they taught me how to be an EMT. And then I went to work for the city of Pittsburgh, and I really taught me how to take care of patients as well. And then Carrier Area EMS gave me the opportunity to be a leader as well, a full-time leader as a chief, heading the organization, and they were patient with me too. But I will tell you that my EMTs and paramedics, and I still call them my family, and they will tell you the same thing. We're family no matter what, and we took care of each other. But I didn't have to instill taking care of patients; they had it already there. Even the people we brought in from when we hired people, they adapted to our philosophy and take care of people. I had a handful of people that boomerang too. They would leave for maybe a little bit more money and then say, "Well, it's not always greener on the other side," which is everybody kind of knows that. And they would try to come back, and if we had a spot for them, sure, we'd bring them back as well. So I think it's just I've been very lucky, as we said earlier. I'm proud of being an EMT and a paramedic and an educator, and been able to work in all my roles. But I couldn't do it alone. My family, my wife has supported me. I mean, my wife has moved with me for my career, uh, and without even blinking. So okay, and if you don't have that support, and then it makes things tough. And that's the same thing. We go back to the back of the ambulance, 3 o'clock in the morning. Do our supervisors and leaders have those providers that are up 3 o'clock in the morning while you're sleeping at home? Do we have your back? And that's an important quality for all leaders. You've got to have their back. And understand, if they make a mistake, yeah, let's own up to it, and hopefully you can learn from it. And it's not a mistake that's going to cost you your career. But let's talk about it. Let's educate, and let's get you back on the rig if we can.
And don't do it in front of others. That's my biggest thing that I
Well,
hate to see people
that's a good point.
berate in front of others. It makes you feel small. It makes you feel like a moron. Do it behind closed doors. Take them to the side. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it is true, because it's one of the lessons you learn. I've been yelled at numerous times up in during my career, where I've been yelled at by a supervisor in front of people, and didn't think twice about yelling at me. But I never thought about kind of challenging my supervisor at the time, saying, "Stop yelling at me. Can we go somewhere else?" Because I was young and didn't want to lose my job. But yeah, it's the same thing. Hey, you and I can be talking and we could disagree on something. But if we disagree, let's disagree behind closed doors, not in front of the people that we're supposed to lead. And that's key, right? It's key. But yeah, again, my career, uh, I've got no regrets except for not going to nursing school and getting the RN behind my name. Yeah, that but it's a minor regret. EMS has given me a great path. And the other part, is where I'm on your podcast, which I really appreciate an invite and coming to talk about some of my stories. Uh, the podcast started. Uh, I just like I published my 330th episode just before I came on with you, and that's a lot. And I've done that with no sponsor, no team. Like we don't have a team, right? I
Nope.
don't have a green room.
Me.
I don't have a green room. I don't have a budget. I don't have any of that. And it's been all a one person show. And as you know, that can be very difficult as well. I still don't like editing. But I was walking my golden retriever when I was in Raleigh, in Cary, and I was listening to Mark Maron's and Terry Gross, and I'm saying, God, they talk to people, and it sounds like fun. I don't know. I debated with myself for about 6 months if I could start a podcast, and then come up with a name for it as well. Actually, I give credit to my son who came up with the name Medic, the number 2 Medic. And also the original logos came from Joanna. I don't want to give her last name, but she was very nice to create some logos for me as well. And though Joanna is now a client of mine because my part-time gig is Magical Destinations by Steve, I'm a travel advisor. I got to pitch it. Sorry. You can cut it out if you want,
Go ahead, man.
but
Go ahead.
I'm a travel advisor part-time. I don't charge for any of my fees. Majority of my clients are public safety as well. And Disney Hawaii cruises. I could plan any trip for you, but those are in Asia or in Alaska are my strong points or where I'm really a specialist in. But I don't charge. But Joanna would help me develop my Medic to Medic podcast logo. But I'm sorry.
I said that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, so I started the podcast with downloading some free software on my iPad. I asked one of my paramedics, Greg Edwards, to come in if he'd come talk to me about it. I told him I was going to try to do this podcast. And we go into my office, shut the door, and we're talking. I'm asking some questions. Then 45 minutes into the podcast, I look at the free software on my iPad. It's not recording anymore. That's why there's part 1 and part 2. And he came back the next day and we finished it up as well and there was no editing. The first 9 or 10 episodes went up without any editing at all. I didn't even
That's
know
what I do.
how to, yeah, right. I mean, I had no idea how to create a link and get it on Facebook, but starting a podcast, getting to 50 episodes, figuring out how to get it on social media, especially Facebook, which I still post today. And getting Randolph Mantooth, convincing him to come on my podcast, which I started in September, and then March 15th of the first year of the podcast, he came on. I finally found a good email address for contact for him, and it actually worked. And his wife was his publicist at the time, said that he'd be willing to come on after the new year, contact me after January 1st. So January 2nd, I emailed her right back. I emailed her and I said, "You have a date for me? We still willing to come on?" And she said, "Yeah, he's willing to come on. He'll give you 30 minutes and we'll set it up for March." So I remember pacing in our training room as I was waiting for the ding to come in that he actually joined the podcast. And I was using Uber Conference at the time to record. And he came on and he gave me 43 minutes. Actually gave me 53 minutes, I think. And 43 got recorded. And 10 minutes was him and I after the podcast just talking. It was great. I know he doesn't remember me. I know he'll never remember me, but that's okay. It's my most downloaded podcast and listened to a lot of podcasts in my 11 years of being on the air. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, it was great. I was trying to get somebody from the pit to come on. Can't. I actually emailed Warner Brothers a couple times, and I actually DM'd Noah Wiley, whoever was watching his account on Instagram. And got nothing. But I would like to have somebody from the pit come on since it's based in Pittsburgh. I lived in Pittsburgh, was a Pittsburgh paramedic and da da da, but that hasn't come up. But I've gotten lucky enough to have some few people come on the podcast. I had one of the technical advisors from ER, who's
Wow.
was a doctor, and a pediatrician who ended up being the executive producer and showrunner for uh, um, God, I'm drawing a blank. SVU for 4 years. What happened was, and that's another good story, is that I had just read some years back that uh, the creator of Law and Order, Dick Wolf, just signed a new contract with Universal Studios to produce more whatever LA or Law and Order series. And so I emailed. Funny enough, I emailed Universal Studios Public Relations. They emailed me back and says, "Well, Mr. Wolf doesn't do podcasts, but how would you like to talk to this other person who was an ER? Um, he helped with scripts and everything else, and then got into it, and then moved to SVU." And said, "Sure." So he came on, and we talked, and a couple other people. So I always try. The worst thing they can do is say no and not answer, like the people from the pit have not answered, and I didn't expect them to answer. That's the way it is. So I'm trying to will my way into with Kevin Ty and Randolph Mantooth with their documentary that they're trying to get out publicly, and they did on paramedicines and paramedics. I know some people that are on the advisory board, and I saw via the Kickstarter um, campaign they were running, which I actually campaigned to because if it wasn't for emergency, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so I'm hoping that I might be able to get somebody from their project into their unknown, uh, come on my podcast as well. But who knows? But all you do is try.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've sent out numerous emails and chats, and it's amazing how many go unanswered. But
Yeah.
you know,
It is what it is. But I've also been lucky enough, I'm sure you have too, some people have come on that you didn't expect would come on.
oh
As
yeah, very much so. And this whole process has been amazing because of the people I've met doing it. I would have never thought some of the people I would have talked to I've talked to.
yeah.
And it just amazes me that to this day there's a couple of them that still reach out to me like, "Hey brother, how you doing today?" Like, "Oh, okay, that was weird, but okay."
Yeah.
And I started this as my own, mental health uh break in the end. And it's as I said earlier before the show, is I started it without thinking it was going to take off like it has. I'm very appreciative of it, and as you said earlier, it is difficult to do it yourself. Uh, the PR, getting guests together, the scheduling, the whole ordeal is not as easy as everyone thinks it is. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it is, but it's still often enjoyable, and
Mhm.
it kind of coincides in my mind with EMS because we get into EMT school thinking after we graduate it's going to be simple, it's going to be easy, And then we actually get in the field and get our asses handed to us a few times, and we learn, hey, it's not all rainbows and unicorn farts, but
Yeah,
and it's just amazing.
it is. Yeah, and the thing about it is when Magnetic started, there were a few very limited EMS related podcasts. And now, you can't uh, go on to Apple Podcast or on the Facebook or to X or whatever it may be and see another podcast regarding the fire side, the police side, the EMS side, the medical side, the PA side. So the podcasts all over the place. And at least in the first few years, it was nice because EMS One, when they were first, they they would rank the podcast, and Magda Medical was always in the top 10 in the first few years of it. So I really appreciate them doing that. Yeah, but who knows? It is what it is. I retired it when I moved to Washington State for a little bit, and then I stopped getting because the email was still active, which it still is, of course, and I would get inquiries every once in a while, and then I started getting more inquiries. Doing a podcast, we like to have guests for you. I'd like to come on your podcast, and very rarely do I
Right.
say no. And so I brought it back because my wife said, "Do you miss it?" And I said, "I do. I miss talking about public safety and talking to people." And I've been lucky enough with the reboot that a handful of people that were once on the podcast have come back on. I've
That's
been lucky
awesome.
enough that I can call somebody and say, "You want to come on?" And they have, and I've had a whole bunch of people come back on the podcast, which makes it easier for me as well. Because when I actually when I retired the podcast for the first time, I did a spinoff called Voices of EMS. So I went back to some old guests and I asked if, excuse me, if they would come on and tell one more story. I figured I'd get maybe 10 people, right, come back on, and so end up with 30 episodes. If people come back on and want to tell their stories again or tell a different story, and it was fantastic. And then my last podcast, The Voices of EMS, was Eric Chase from EMS Improv, and also hosts a podcast sponsored by Gems. Uh, Gems and I just again, Gems
Right.
wanted, or,
Right.
yeah, Gems wanted to come. Gems wanted to partner up with me way back when, except they wanted total control, and I just said no. But James gives Eric has a great audience, and Eric and I are friends. And I pass on. It's funny. I pass on a bunch of guests to him. He's yet to pass on a guest back to me. I don't know why, but that's okay because again, passing on knowledge and passing on, people that can get their message out. I'm happy to do it. But Eric interviewed me for that last podcast, and that was weird. This is weird for me because I'm not used to being interviewed, and I've talked way too much. I'm not let you ask any of your questions.
You're good, man. You're good. You've answered a lot of the questions as you're talking. But as you said, I think it would be amazing to get a sponsor sooner or later to me. But at the same time, I think that has its ups and downs as well. And the whole podcast thing is, you're right. There is a lot of us out there, and mine was started for the mental health of it, and that's why I did it. Is there's not maybe two or three of us out there,
Yeah,
and I cover leadership, I cover all of it, but my main priority is the uh, mental health side of things, and to learn from people like you, where you came from, what you did to, progress, and to see the things progress over the years, I think helps a lot of us that are newer in this field understand it better, and
yeah. I appreciate you mentioning that. Thank you very much. But doing what you're doing for the mental health component, because you're right, you're focusing on something that only a few people really focus on and talk about. And that is so important in the field of EMS, fire, and police, as well as the hospital side. It, it just, the peer support uh, but I just think I don't know if we're doing enough
Right.
from
I don't think we are.
because there's just way too many people that are committing suicide, and
We lose a lot of good ones that way.
yeah, um, when we're done, I will. I'll give you an email for you to talk to somebody to come on your podcast. I think he'd be a great guest for. Yeah. So we'll do that after we stop recording. I know this is all going up recording, but I'll tell you after as well.
It's fine.
But he would
Yeah.
he'd be a great guest for you, absolutely.
And
And yeah,
it's
and
funny
that's
that
one
you're
thing.
talking earlier too, because I've been reading a bunch of my questions. You've been answering them as you've been talking, so
Yeah.
that's
Well,
not an issue. Don't apologize for that. You got to get your story out there.
yeah. Well, like I say, I want people to listen to all our podcasts.
Yeah.
My podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's on speaker.com. But Speaker is my platform. Again, I'm a loyal person, and Speaker's been really good to me as well. And they've answered a bunch of my questions, especially at the beginning, and helped me get to where I was able to publish in a normal way as well. And then, of course, I just posted a special message on my Facebook page and LinkedIn about my episode 330 and how I got there. And I know it's not a big milestone for some people, but for me, 330 episodes of this podcast is a
Awesome.
milestone.
Very.
And that, as you know, being a one person show, it's not easy to produce and direct and write scripts if you have to write scripts or whatever it may be, and then do some editing and then getting it out there and trying to get your message out. But you're right, we're competing with a whole bunch of people that have bigger platforms, have sponsors behind them, have great listenership and downloads. I get it, but I don't do it for the downloads. I do
Right.
it one to get the story out for people, to give them opportunity. Two, I like it as well. Yeah, I, I'd love to have a sponsor. Well, I do have a sponsorship, and that's my own. My travel, every once in a while, I will do a quick introduction to this podcast is sponsored by Magical Destinations by Steve. If you want to travel, reach out to Steve. That's right. That's me, or something like that. But yeah, so and then I did have a quick podcast sponsor back in the early days. My brother sponsored a couple. Didn't pay for it, but it's okay. I sponsored his deli. His deli sponsored a couple episodes as well. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, it's a everybody has a podcast. It's not easy. For me, editing's still the toughest part. And because you want to make sure your guests sound right. And I also don't want to sound stupid, but sometimes I sound really stupid. But it's fun because most of my, I do have some set questions every once in a while, but for most of it's been all off the cuff. And that's the
And
fun part.
really, I'm on it.
All right. And you might be going and say, okay, I'm going in this direction, right? This is the direction we're going in the podcast. And all of a sudden your guest says something and you just go whoop, way to the right side or to the left side or down the middle or whatever it may be as well. And
Yeah.
that's the fun part. Yeah,
But
that's
yeah.
the fun part.
I write the intros and a few questions, and then I write my closings normally, and that's all I write. Everything else of mine's not scripted.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's the way it should be. I know it's fun to be a podcaster. I can say I am a podcaster. You can say you're a podcaster, and that we're successful. We're still. I read
put in
once
through.
that I read that most people get if they can get past 7 episodes, then
That's
they
it.
just quit. Yeah,
Right.
and it's just, I know you're past 7, I'm past 7,
Oh, yeah.
and
I think I may have
it's
like
just it
50,
yeah, it'll,
but I
yeah,
also
just
got
keep
started last year, so,
yeah.
you know. On that note, I just wanna thank you for everything you've said, someone is listening to this alone, and I know they could be sitting in the truck after a bad call, driving home in silence, maybe leadership now, and wondering if they've gotten ever too far away from their roots, you know, and if they're able to protect the people they're supposed to be. Maybe they're new and already wondering if they've made a mistake, or maybe they're just burned out, and they don't want to call it that because it becomes real. And yes, I've been there, done that, people. So don't do that to yourselves. It's a fucking horrible place. Uh, Maybe they're just showing up, still having patience, still doing the job, still being dependable, but quietly losing themselves. Again, burnout. Don't do it to yourself. Speak out to somebody. So I'll ask you this: if someone is still showing up for everybody else, but slowly disappearing inside this job, what do they need to hear from you tonight or today or whenever they're listening to this?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and just I think what the message that what you're sending, not trying to send, is that first of all, if you need help, ask for it. And if you're a leader, recognize that this person needs help and help them, not ignore it. And if you don't know who to talk to, there are plenty of phone numbers out there. Reach out to a friend. Hey, email me and I'll find you resources. There are tons of resources out there that you can talk to. So I think that what we have to stress, and especially in the mental health component, is that first of all, it's okay to ask for help. Two, it's okay to talk about it. I mean, that going home and I don't know, dwelling on it. Yeah, you're going to dwell on it no matter what. I get it. But if you can talk to somebody and help you, especially there's a lot of people that have probably been in the same um, boat that you've been in on that call. That's how they handled it. Talk to somebody. I just can't. There's no reason to end your life, right? There's just no reason to end your life where there's so many resources and people out there willing to help. And the other parties, you've got to recognize that you need help, and the people that you're working with every day.
Yep. Watch your partner's backs, make sure you're there for them, and I I know we all think we do, but we don't ever always notice it. We should pay closer attention to our partners, pay closer attention to our spouses. Hell, even if it's your kids or your parents that are doing this, check in on them. The word "I'm fine" ain't fine. That's not no, we need deeper than that, and that's my biggest thing is, "Well, I'm fine." Alright, let's go further into that. I understand you're fine, but why are you fine? You know? Hey, good one. You gotta go inside. Right, and they actually go inside. You you're good. I Yeah, that's what it's for. That's what I'm here for, you know? And before we wrap up, where can people find you, follow your work, or listen to your podcast, Bet It to Bet It? Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then, hey, for everyone listening, I'll make sure Steve's podcast and contact info's included when I post the description. Let me go ahead.
If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.